Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Stunt Fight TV Live. For those who don't know me, my name is Philippe Deseck, and I've been working in the film industry for over 25 years as a stunt actor and now also assistant stunt coordinator. So the idea of putting Stunt Fight TV Live is to break down action scenes, action movies that I've shot, and also other films, and just to give you an idea of what it takes to put an action scene together. So today we're going to talk about Hong Kong versus Hollywood. So I'm going to show you two clips that were shot with Hollywood, and then a few clips that were shot with Asian films. But what we're going to do, we're going to have Richard Norton play. He's going to be playing in both of them. He's going to be playing in the Hollywood stuff and also in the Hong Kong stuff, and we're going to have a look and see what the difference is between the two. So I've had the pleasure of doing a few workshops with Richard Norton, and yeah, he's a really talented martial artist, actor, and he has an amazing CV. The clip that we're going to really focus on is Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, 1985, where he does a fight scene with Sammo Hung, which is absolutely really amazing. And in the Hollywood stuff, we're going to focus on multiple clips. Some of them he played with Cynthia Rothrock. Some he played with my good old friend Ronnie Vreeken in Rage and Honor. What we're going to actually look at the clips, and then we are going to analyze them bit by bit, and we're going to try and kind of determine what the difference is between shooting Hollywood style versus shooting Asian style, Hong Kong style. So without further ado, let's give it a crack. Cool, so you kind of get the idea. So what we're going to do now is to play the clip also with Richard Norton, but in Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars from 1985, where he fights Sammo Hung. Just pop up the video. So we have a look at that as well, and then we're going to go back and kind of analyze and talk about the differences between the Hollywood style versus the Hong Kong style.
No, estoy bien.
Estupendo.
Vamos.
¿Qué tal ahora?
Muy bien, un poco de sangre nada más.
Ah, nada más. Hijo de...
¿Duele?
No. Nada. Perdona. Ahora sí te duele, ¿no?
No, no duele. Solo que no siento el cuerpo.
Excellent. So you kind of get the gist. So yes, I love watching, especially just thinking back. You know, Richard Norton played in so many good films back in the day. I mean, the first film that I saw with him was The Octagon, which was, let me just check my screen. So The Octagon was in 1980, and I remember watching that film like it was yesterday. I was so excited. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. And he's played in a lot of really, really good films. He's played in, he's played in Jim Carter in his younger days. Salute to the Jugger, which is really good. China O'Brien. Rage and Honor. I mean, and the list goes on. Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, the list goes on. He's got some Texas Walker, Texas Ranger. I mean, he's got a fantastic resume. And just recently, he's been doing quite a bit of fight coordinating. He's done quite a bit of fight coordinating in X-Men, Suicide Squad, Mad Max. So you know, and he's a very talented martial artist. He's a very fit person. Takes care of himself really, really well. And it was really cool doing those workshops with him a little while ago. So if I go back to what we just saw, so just briefly, probably, you know, because I gave you guys like a little bit of an assignment yesterday so I gave those clips yesterday for you to look at, and you know, just to kind of have an idea of what you believe the differences are between Hollywood versus Hong Kong style of performing and shooting action. Now there are massive differences between the two. The first thing that actually comes to mind is story. So when you watch all of this stuff, it just looks like choreography. It just looks like choreography that just happens, and the storyline within the choreography is almost non-existent. And when you look at, again, the Sammo Hung one, there's a completely different pace. Pace is completely different. There are a lot more beats in the fight scene as a whole. And there is a story that's been told within the fight scene. So as you can see, the beats are completely different. There's also a dialogue between the fight scenes, which we hardly ever see in Hollywood either. You know, it's just fight after fight, beat after beat. Cool. So let's go back to Richard Norton. So that's one difference. Another difference, which is a major difference. And let's go back to the first scene. So another major difference is that Hollywood likes to shoot master shots. So their system of shooting is master shots, then they come in for a couple of inserts, and that's it. That's how they put it together. Whereas in Hong Kong, they stay away from master shots. There are no master shots, and they shoot in sequential shooting or montage shooting. So they shoot it in bits, bit by bit. So let's have a quick look as well at this here. See, so the camera is staying, all that is happening in one shot. Now we just go for a little bit of an insert, and then we go back to the one shot. So let's go back to Sammo Hung. So as you can see, there are a lot more cuts. A lot more cuts. So they do what do you call sequential shooting or montage shooting. So when you do this, I mean, there's sometimes a reason why, you know, and also it depends on the style of the film, etc., etc. But shooting with master shots usually takes a lot less time. But there are advantages and disadvantages to both sides. So with master shots, advantage is that you use a lot less time to shoot. You can shoot a lot faster. Sequential shooting takes a little bit longer because you're setting up the shots shot by shot, and that takes a little bit more time. Now in master shot, the disadvantage of master shot is that the performers have to perform the whole thing in one go, and take after take you don't always perform it the same way, so every take will be a little bit different. And doing it a fight scene, as ones who do fight scenes, as you know, doing a fight scene take after take can be very taxing. It's really tiring. So if you're doing master shots over and over and over again, you are going to start to lose energy. You're going to start losing pacing, and you're going to see the energy won't be more. Now in sequential shooting, if you do that little segments, you can put 100% into every segment in every shot. And when you build all those shots, it looks like a high impact fight scene. So the energy level is completely different. And when you, from an editing point of view as well, so from an editing point of view, when you shoot master shots with a few inserts, you're quite limited to what you can actually do in the editing room. If you shoot sequential shooting and you shoot little shot by shot, you have a lot more freedom and creativity within the editing process to kind of rearrange the fight. You can work with the pace, and you have a lot more creativity as an editor to kind of make the fight scene really snappy, really slow. You can not necessarily edit in sequence. You can take a little bit from the end, put it in the front, or put it back in the middle. I mean, you got a lot more creativity and input when you do stuff with sequential shooting. So these are like two really main differences. Okay, let's go back to Richard Norton. Let's try and pick another scene. So we're not supposed to look at the same one, because they're all kind of the same thing. So as you can see, it's just choreography after choreography. The camera doesn't do very much. You see the whole thing in one shot. They don't come in for a lot of intakes to emphasize certain shots. Let's do another little scene. There you go. Okay, this is with Range of Honor with Ron Vregan. Now Ron is a very, very talented stunt actor as well. His knowledge of the film industry is phenomenal, and he's worked in amazing films and worked with amazing people. And his knowledge of stunt fighting is absolutely fantastic. So already here they've done a slightly different angle. So they've taken a low angle shot with the tracking as well, which is very different for a Hollywood film. And they shoot the action and reaction separate as well, which is great, really good stuff. So let's go here. Let's try and catch the start of this. So as you can see, I'll go back frame by frame. And that's something that Hollywood does quite a lot, is how they frame things. So the framing in both are very different as well. So let's go back a little bit more. Cool. So here he kicks, which I believe is a round kick. So he's not even really clear what kind of a kick he's doing. As we go, looks like a side kick, but not 100% sure. As you can see, we can't really see what he's doing. So the kick is completely off frame. As you can see. And that's another huge difference with Hong Kong style of shooting. And let's go here, back to Samo. So there you go. I mean, here he gave the same side kick, but can you see the difference? And I'll do it frame by frame so you can actually see. So here's a nice low angle. So as they kick, boom, you just see the foot coming through, so the whole leg coming through, hitting the chest. Okay, so we can see the kick completely. In the other scene we can't even see the kick, but this one we can see the whole thing. And what's interesting is that if you draw, let's see if I can frame it here. If you draw a cross over the frame, the action happens in the middle, and that's another big difference, And they also Hong Kong always frame action in the center of the screen of the frame, because naturally when you look at a screen, naturally you focus in on the middle. You're not really focusing on the sides of the screen of the frame. You naturally focus in on the middle. So that's where they want to see the impact. That's where they want to see the action, because this is where you can best tell the story. So that's something that I love what they do, and that takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. So the camera guy has to be on point, and also you as a performer have to be quite accurate, so you're always hitting the target where you're supposed to hit the target, so the cameraman can work in sync with your performance. There's another nice example where he gives a punch to the stomach. Let's try and find it. Now, even though that was a wider shot for the kick, as you can see, it is beautifully framed right in the center. Like, this is almost picture perfect center. You can see the beautiful cross. If you make a diagonal cross from corner to corner, the action is right in the center, which is absolutely beautiful. Okay, so nice. I think he's do a punch to the stomach. There we go. So as he does a punch to the stomach, framing that is beautiful as well. Again, it's right in the center of the frame, so you can see it really, really clear. So they go from a wide shot into a mid shot, and you can see the punch and the impact point. Beautiful. And the kick as well. And the kick is a bit high in frame, but that's okay. Not every shot is exactly in the middle, but we just see the leg, and we don't see the whole body, which gives you more impact. If you go back, and again here, boom, kicks him in the chest, beautifully centered. Cool, so that's another big difference. Let's go back to Richard Norton. So if I go back to Raging On with Ron Vrieken, and I'll just point out a couple of differences. Let's find a scene. That's in this one. Okay, there's a shot that they did here in the Hollywood one, which is quite rare to see, but they did a great job of doing it. No, so straight away you can already tell that the way they shot this Western production is more Asian orientated than Hollywood orientated. There you go. So that's another nice shot that they did. So as you can see, he does a shot into camera, which is a very Asian style of filming. As you can see, he palms to the lens, and then we cut to the reverse of that and the reaction. Okay, so this is a very much an Asian style of filming. Let's play that in normal speed. Boom, and you got a nice impact. So, and that's something that Hollywood doesn't do much. They do a lot of stuff in camera. It's all what I call kind of observational shooting. So when you look at Richard Norton again, it doesn't matter where you go, it's all kind of very observational. You know, it's almost like news reporting. We're just like observing a fight from a distance. And that's what it looks like. And you can especially see it here at the start. See, all that's very observational. So the storytelling technique, you know, I'm not a big fan of that way of storytelling. But as you see again here, you know, it's not so much observational shooting. It's more, you know, I almost feel like the artistic side of it it's so much bigger. For instance, even here, if you go back a bit for that spin kick, as you can see, as he does a spin kick, all he does here is turn the head, and that would be done in a separate shot. You know, and obviously, if you've got one camera, then that is just a separate shot. See? Spin. So here we're telling a completely different story, and then we cut to the shot, to the wider shot. So you see, this is not so much observational fighting. This is fighting with the story in mind, and you can use your creativity to really piece things together beautifully. See, and even there, you know, as they come up, just there's those little shots there coming up, boom. So these shots are often missing quite a bit in Hollywood productions. Now, a lot of things also have to do with rating. If you go back to Richard Norton, because rating in Asia, rating in the West is very different. And there's one, I don't think I'll find it, but there are some shots that you just don't see at all. See, for instance, here, you know, another big difference is that the camera is constantly moving, and we don't always see the action. We don't always see the hits. We can hear them, but we don't always see them. And a lot of that sometimes has to do with the rating as well. You know, especially if they're doing stuff for a younger audience, they always cut the footage so that we see the start of it, but we don't see the impact and then we see the end of it. So they cut out the middle, so it seems less, maybe less violent, you know. And there's a lot of blocking as well. So there's a lot of coming in where everyone's in line. As you can see, everyone's in line with the lens, with the camera. So it kind of camouflages the moves. As you can see, there you go. See, I'm not really sure what that was either. So there's a lot of that happening, you know, and that's just poor camera work. That's just really poor directing. Let's just put a camera there and see what happens, and not worry too much about it. So when you look at these kind of things, you know, you can just tell that they did not put a lot of thought into the shots that needed to be done. Just so unfortunate, because, you know, I think it's really unfortunate for the actors and for the performers, because they put so much effort into it, you know. And if you change your framing, and if you change the way you looked at things, there, for the same effort, you can make them look so much better. There you go, found it. So, as you can see, Richard does a nice spinning kick, really beautiful, coming in, and then we cut to the foot completely past already, and we just see the reaction. So we don't actually see an impact, there's no impact point whatsoever. So if you go back a bit and let's play it normal speed. Yeah, we hear the sound effect. We imagine that there was a kick, but we can't actually see it. And in Asia, we see every kick, every impact, beautifully centered, nice frame, nicely framed. So, and also camera speed. Camera speed is important. You know, video turns at 25, film turns at 24, but when they want to increase the pace of the fight, make it a little bit more snappy, they'll kind of lower the frame rate, and they'll shoot sometimes at 18, 20, 21, 22 frames. And when you move at normal speed and then you play it back at 24 frames, it will look a lot more snappier. And that's how they do car chases as well. They different frames. Sometimes they play with the frame rates and do 48 frames as well to show certain things in slow motion. And then they can play with the speed as well. What else is there? So obviously we have shaky camera as well for Hollywood, whereas the Sammo Hung stuff, the Asian stuff, as you can see, the camera work is very steady. There's no shaky camera, and the camera follows the action beautifully. I mean, even that framing is beautiful with the camera moving in nicely on the dolly. So as you can see, the camera moves in beautifully, nice and steady, follows the action, comes in close, boom, and the kick, beautiful. So the camera work is very different. If you look at Richard Norton again, I mean, it's not his work, but if you look at the films that he's played in, let's go in here. Let's find an example. See, everything's really wide. Everything's really close, and it kind of, they're not really showing the whole thing. No, and now, I mean, these are films that are a little bit older, but nowadays, I mean, they shake the camera even more, like Born Identity. I mean, they shake the camera so crazy, you just have no idea what's going on sometimes within a fight scene. So these are a few of my differences. So I just go through the list again. I've got a list here. So Hollywood versus Hong Kong. So the main differences that we have is Hollywood master shot, Hong Kong sequential shooting, montage shooting. Hollywood shaky camera, Hong Kong more of a steady camera. Then we have Hollywood, they only shoot action only, and they only focus usually on the actor, and that's where their focus is, and they don't really focus on the stunt guys that much. So everything is kind of focused on the actor, whereas Hong Kong will focus on the actor and also on the surrounding people around the actor. Because if you see what the impact the actor does with the other people, it gives the actor more credibility. Whereas if you just focus on the actor only and we don't see the impact of what he's done, then to me you're showing less of an impact on the actor, if that makes sense. So I like to see action also film the reaction. In Hollywood they just like to film the action, but they don't really focus on the reaction, whereas Hong Kong, they really do focus on the reaction quite a bit, so that gives you a bit more of an impact. So we have sequential editing in Hollywood, which means that with the master shots they do it with inserts, but you haven't got much choice with the editing. You got to kind of edit the fight in sequence. Whereas Hong Kong, because they shoot it in segments, you have non-sequential editing, which means that you have the freedom, the liberty to play with the edit. You can take a move from the start, put it in the middle. You can take a move from the end, put it at the start, and you can kind of change the fight scene, and you can kind of mold the fight scene. So you got a lot of creative input. Hollywood's a lot of loose framing, whereas Hong Kong, it's framing for the performance. So the performer has to work to the frame, whereas in Hollywood, it's the frame that works to the performance. So the frame is constantly trying to find the performer, whereas in Hong Kong, the performer has to find the frame, which is a completely different way of performing and working as well, and a completely different outcome. Now, for the actor to find the frame is a lot harder than for the frame to find the actor. With the frame finding actor, you just kind of do it a few takes, then you hope that you will find it. Eventually you will find it. But for the performer to find a frame, you're working to an invisible frame, and that takes skill. That takes a lot of skill from the performance side, and it's really it's not an easy skill to learn. Then we have the frame rates are different as well. Hong Kong, they use a lot of lower frame rates, or sometimes higher frame rates, and then when they shoot at 18 frames or 22 frames, the fight looks a lot more snappier, a lot more faster. Then we have rating purpose as well. So the rating purposes are different. So a lot of the cuts in Hollywood are done for a certain reason because of the rating purpose. That's why we don't always see the impact. Whereas Asia has a different rating system, and you see more of the violent stuff, if you want to call it violent stuff. Hollywood does more what I call kind of observational recording. It's like you're just looking at a recording of fight, whereas Hong Kong or Asia, there's more of an artistic recording. So the way they record, the two is completely different. So observational is just like standing back, let's look at the fight, whereas artistic recording is punching in on certain aspects of the fight and building a story that way. And then it comes to story as well. You know, as you can see, Hollywood is just punch after punch, kick after kick, choreography after choreography. There are not many beats in there. Whereas Hong Kong, there are a lot more beats, there's a lot more story, there's dialogue in between the fight. So it has a completely different feel to it. And the storytelling within the choreography is very different as well. Excellent. So that's roughly what I've got so far. Okay. I hope that that was useful. Please leave some comment behind. I'd love to hear from you and see what you think about the differences between Hollywood and Hong Kong shooting. Excellent. So thank you very much again. Like I mentioned in every Stunt Fight TV live edition, I am running an online course as well, and I'm actually going to do a launch, and my launch has been dated for the 7th of May, which I'm very excited about. So I'm finally going to launch my course for the public, and the course is mainly on the performance side, and I will also give a few tutorials on editing and learning how to film action as well. So it'll be performance, filming and editing. So I'm really excited to put the whole thing together to present it to you guys. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I'll be glad to hear from you, and yes, have your insight or your thoughts on Hollywood versus Hong Kong action. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great evening or a great morning, wherever you guys are watching from, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.